The 90s. The early days of the internet, boy bands everywhere you turn, and a million ways to play with monsters in your pocket. There's something for everyone this week, but if you grew up with shorts that reached your ankles or have an incredible ability to do the Macarena in your sleep, there's a whole lot to like in Nindie Nation episode 160. Greetings, citizens! I'm Jeff, and today we're checking out 16 brand new indie games, all hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, September 25th. And we've got a lot of games to touch on, especially those that released unannounced since last week's episode. So hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, don't forget to join us on Thursday's Nindies at Night stream, and let's get this show on the road. These are the 9 neglected Nindies that released since episode 159. We've got a bunch of neglected Nindies this week with the shocking theme that some of our beloved publishers are trying to take a break from the Nonos we're used to and actually publish something worth playing. So stay tuned for that. But first, golf. Calling a technicality here, but
Clap hands!
Is an independent studio. They were just aligned with PlayStation for the better part of the last 20 years. Out of nowhere last week, they released Easy Come, Easy Golf for $19.99, and it is essentially their acclaimed Everybody's Golf or Hot Shot Golf series, but on the Switch. So far, we're seeing excellent reviews that are calling out a pick-up-and-play approach with tons of depth and modes for people who want to dig in further. So if you were let down by Mario Golf or just want more opportunity to play with your wooden balls, check it out. East Asia Soft released Maggie the Magnet for $3.99, and for all intents and purposes, it's a simplistic physics-based puzzle game all centered around a single button and a bunch of magnets. Devoured by Darkness is a $6 platformer by Chili Dog Interactive that tasks you with a million ways to avoid sharp objects. The visuals are nice with some eerie environments, and there's a cool mechanic where your character has psychic abilities that make solving puzzles quickly look pretty fun. And then we get to a few publishers who have really been shoveling out anything they can get their hands on, but this week are at least earning an E for effort. First up is Trues with Dead Rain New Zombie Virus. It's a 2D action game by DevBox where you try to reach the end of the stage while fighting off endless hordes of zombies, and it looks like a good, gory time. It might be a bit pricey at $11, but it includes a flamethrower that seems really fun to use, and I'm a sucker for effective video game flamethrowers. We've got 2 titles by Ultimate Games, and while the second one has some merit, the first is Sacred Valley. It's a first-person adventure that continues last week's theme of games that look like they were designed in Roblox, and is created by, whoever thought this was a good logo. What's that even say? Is it a 1 or a 7? Is it a bomb or a crank? Anyways, in this super chill valley, you walk up to a townsperson, they ask you to get something, then you go find it in the woods. I think it's like a life simulator for when my kids won't stop asking for food, but I just want to sit on the couch for 1 second. What I experience for free will cost you $3.49. But their other release is Gunslingers and Zombies, which I have a code for and might check out on Nindies at Night. It's a turn-based tactical strategy game where, well, it's basically janky Fire Emblem, but replace the sexualized anime sword fighters and magicians with zombies and cowboys. And I'm kinda here for it. It's also developed by 700 Crank Bombs, as well as
LMG
and
GF.
I have no idea what any of those logos represent, but all in all, this game will set you back $6.29. And then after their latest valiant effort to piss me off, Red Deer Games is back with an interesting take on tower defense in Space Raiders in Space for $3.99. With the comic book art style, you set out as a band of humans trying to invade the home of aliens who invaded Earth. You control up to 8 characters individually or as a whole. You issue commands, build bases, and ward off enemies. I dig the music, I dig the style, and I like its blend of genres. In fact, for $4, it's kinda hard to avoid this one, especially as it includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! I've I've yet to recommend anything by Weakfish Studio, and while that won't change this week, 99 cents is a pretty low bar to set, even if your game sounds like its name is based on a sexual act you learned about on Urban Dictionary. Blobufo claims,
Platformer game with different mechanic on space. Don't look easy. Seriously hard.
so there's that. Blobufo is seriously hard.
Giggity, giggity.
And then Plicky wraps up the neglected Nindies with Magician's Chase Missing Curry Recipe for $6.29. The best way I can describe it is that it looks like 8-bit Mega Man, where the robot masters were replaced with female anime tropes. But that doesn't mean I'm not interested. In fact, I think I'll be keeping an eye out for the reviews on this one. But we can't wrap this up just yet, citizens, because we've got some Nindie Nonos to cover. Including Reasoning of Courage, a detective novel by
Hero game.
shown with only Japanese text. You can blame Midnight Works for
Eagle Simulator, Bird Zoo, Park Flight, Sky Pilot Driving,
and while we begged them to stop, they refused to listen and hit us with
Animal Transport Simulator, Car Driving, and
Parking games real zoo park switch.
So you could say that this game is the product of people who didn't stop when asked to. Gametry has this, which they call Animal Drifters, but I call Mario Kart Grifters. Phoenix releases a new visual novel, the third in one series, but the first in a new series, and it's called Fault-Lagcraft. And just typing that gave Google spell check a hernia. But hey, if you want Sudoku, we've got Puzzle by Nikolai S. Sudoku by
Hamster.
so make sure you avoid that one. And Red Deer Games blows away any goodwill from earlier by releasing Kaiko and Kokosh Coloring Book. That garbage aside, the neglected Nindies look pretty good. Gonna be playing some golf, shooting some zombies, or participating in consensual blobufo? Let me know down in the comments and let's dive into the week ahead. These are the 16 new releases hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, September 25th. The week kicks off on Monday the 19th with the long-awaited return of one of the preeminent, most beloved point-and-click adventure games in Return to Monkey Island for $24.99. Designed by the creators of the 1990 original, Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman, Devolver Digital helps bring to fruition the game that was originally supposed to be the third entry in the series before a bunch of 90s PC developer drama took the series down a different path. If you've ever wanted to try a point-and-click adventure game, or if you just want a game that will make you laugh your ass off, you've found it right here. Obviously, the team knows that not everyone has played the original two Monkey Island games or their late 2000s remakes, so the game's been reworked a bit so that newbies can enjoy it just the same. I'm not sure what else to say about this one, but it's the hilarious pirate treasure hunter type story that kicked off an entire genre. Only now it includes a long-lost continuation of the story and exciting new presentation that has seen some pushback for its visuals, but I love it nonetheless. Anyone planning on taking this adventure with Guybrush Threepwood? Let me know down in the comments. Then as we're magically whisked away to Tuesday the 20th, we stop by the eShop to download the free demo of Jack Move before the Cyberpunk JRPG releases by way of So Romantic and
Hype Train Digital
for $17.99. This game looks so cool. It follows Noah, a young girl who leverages her hacking expertise to take down a mega corporation and save her kidnapped father. The game really looks like a PS1-era JRPG, but with modern pixel art aesthetics that I am totally here for. The battles are traditional and turn-based, but you have various loadouts you can configure before battle. In that way, it kinda makes it sound like a card system. The whole style looking similar to how futuristic computer software would be portrayed in 90s movies gives the game this innocent yet dangerous flair that's pulling me in something fierce. Plus, everything that I've heard from the soundtrack so far, mwah. Our whirlwind tour through the week makes one more stop before the big Thursday drop when Cthulhu Pub releases by solo Ukrainian developer Marginal Act for $9.99. With a history of weird games with weird art that borderlines between gross out and unsettling, Cthulhu Pub has you managing a pub or cafe with very weird art that borderlines between gross out and unsettling. Besides that, it overall seems quirky and right at home alongside other management sims from the 90s. Huh. A lot of 90s stuff so far this week. I guess only 90s kids would understand. The big Thursday drop is a good one this week, and it starts off on the right foot with the action RPG/management sim Potion Permit for $19.99. With similarities to Moonlighter that are more than surface deep, you, a chemist, move to a town reluctant to magic in an attempt to save the mayor's daughter, but you'll need to win over the townspeople first. You build and manage a potion shop while meeting the townsfolk, gather materials, hang out with your doggo, and engage in top-down hack-and-slash combat with the monsters that live outside the town's walls. The game is developed in Indonesia by Mass Hive Media, whose only other Switch release was the warmly received 2019 turn-based RPG Azure Saga. Potion Permit shows the team has come a long way in just a few short years, so if you've already played Moonlighter and/or Cult of the Lamb and want more of that management sim meets action RPG formula, it looks like P-Cube has just the potion for what's ailin' ya. Alright, first off, shout out to solo developer Neverjam for introducing the delightfully punny phrase Arachnobatics into my vocabulary. Not sure when I'll need it, but hey, if I ever need to describe a 2D hack-and-slash game against endless waves of spiders bearing laser swords, I guess I've got my— oh, yeah, that's spider hack. If I had to guess, I'd say this game started after a sleepless night of playing with either shiny particle effects or outlandish physics engines, because it blends both of those together to create a never-ending battleground of spiders with laser weapons. Meant to be a couch co-op brawler with online play for up to 4 people, I guess you could say this is a
zany multiplayer party game with a gimmick!
But it seems a little deeper than that. Not sure what to think about this one, with my biggest concern being that if you don't play with friends, it'll lose its luster pretty quick. But I am a fan of tiny build games, and I like what I see so far, so it'd be fun to at least check out. If you want to do the same, you can pick it up when it releases for $13.49. And then we've got a Nindie newcomer who's proven very hard to research online, and they're dropping 3 games this week, so let's look at them together and see what we think about Ableix Games. First up is Drift King. It's a racing game that wants to be Ridge Racer and includes a very odd mashup of visuals, with some cars looking really solid and lots of environments that leave much to be desired. It appears to include a few different modes, but for $19.99, I just don't see this game lasting very long, unless you're a hardcore drifting enthusiast. Then we've got Alter World, a 2D challenging platformer with a shtick of moving between parallel worlds. It's only $5, which is much more reasonable for a first showing, but man, is it just me, or is this game like super ugly? Last up in the Ableix trilogy is
Slice!
A simplistic physics puzzler that wants to be something like Where's My Water, where you slice up geometric shapes to, get the thing, I guess. It's also $5, but I'm just not feeling it. Maybe Ableix will change my mind in the future. I mean, everyone gets at least a couple of chances on Nindie Nation. But for this maiden voyage, I'm so far feeling very unimpressed. But I am impressed with the first Switch release by Austin, Texas-based developer Hiding Spot and their creepy yet charming adventure called Beacon Pines. The backstory's pretty cool with this one. After 2 mobile games, one being the award-winning Flipping Legend, they set out to make an RPG. Over time, they fell in love with the characters and story so much that they pivoted the game to be a fantasy adventure set within a storybook full of anthropomorphic animals. While the character art is a bit too furry-like for my tastes, there's no denying the visual pizzazz that gives Beacon Pines such an original look. As you play, you'll find items that let you change words in the story, which then changes the story itself so you can see multiple divergent paths, likely leading to replay value and more time in this world. With a 10% discount at release, it clocks in at $17.99, and with the publisher being Fellow Traveler, whose catalog includes adventure games like Genesis Noir, Paradise Killer, and Citizen Sleeper, I'm feeling optimistic that Beacon Pines is going to deliver. Get ready, citizens, because I am really excited about this next one. Here in the nation of Nindie, a lot of how I view the value of a game, and therefore if it's worth your time, even how I judge games based on the teams behind them, a lot of it boils down to intent. What's the team trying to create? Are they adding to an existing formula or trying to do something more creative? Looking at the Nindie Nonos, for example, it's clear when a game is built as a cash grab, so the approach works well whether it's positive or negative. Dengen Entertainment is a publisher who has a great eye for spotting games that really pull ahead of the pack whenever they try to do something new, or those that just try to expand on a tried-and-true formula. Bug Fables, Lost Ruins, Smelter, and my beloved Astalon are all great examples of that. So anyways, this week we've got a game that has such a cool premise, and on Thursday for $14.99, we'll see how it pans out in OneShot World Machine Edition. You, the player, find a computer that has an odd little video game in it. In said game, a child learns about the end of the world approaching after the world's sun has died out, and they're on a quest to try and save it. Thing is, the child knows they're in a game of some sort and constantly engages directly with you, the player, through breaking the fourth wall. As such, you can actually back out of the game on the computer and explore other things that are happening in the operating system, as if you were the one sitting at the desk. Puzzles will require you to move files around on the PC, and the child will frequently give you hints about what you can do beyond the game's fourth wall to change things in the game itself. And all of that goes a step further when you consider that there's actually a second fourth wall because you, citizen of Nindie Nation, are controlling another person who is actually the one the child is talking to.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
You follow me? It seems like a quirky little game that fits the Earthbound mold, but with sections that get much more dark and serious. Developed by Team OneShot and FutureCat, it's actually pretty old, releasing for the PC at the end of 2016, where it, by the way, received rave reviews from its intended audience and average scores from those who typically admitted it just wasn't their kind of game. Since then, it's seen a bunch of updates and some DLC, all of which are included in this Switch release. So if you like puzzles, retro-styled adventures, and games that try to immerse you in a completely different, almost haunting way, OneShot is probably going to be your cup of tea. Late last year, PC and mobile platforms saw the release of another puzzle game that leverages perspective as a core mechanic. And this week, for $13.49, Moncage makes its way to the Switch. Optillusion's serene narrative wraps itself around the premise of a rotating cube with its own little stories and worlds existing within each side, and it was praised as a great all-around experience in this subgenre that's really exploded over the past couple years. You probably know by now if you're interested just by seeing this trailer, and I trust that it'll be good thanks to its publishing being handled by XD Network. Their catalog includes games like Icy, To the Moon, and Juicy Realm. However, I will say that many reviews felt it played best on phones, and over on those platforms you can find the game for $5, so if you plan to jump in, maybe keep that in mind. Does anyone else see this trailer and immediately recall the old commercials for the GameCube? Anyone? No? Just me? Okay. So how are we feeling so far? I think it's a great week if you're willing to take a chance on something different, though I wouldn't want you to risk your hard-earned digital dollars on something that probably won't pan out. So before we get too much further, let's check out the Nindie Nonos that you probably shouldn't be taking a chance on. Baltoro Minis released Classic Games Collection Volume 2 while teaching us all the lesson that two wrongs don't make a right. Red Deer Games and Ultimate Games worked quickly to undo any goodwill they earned earlier in this episode with Draw and Color Kawaii and Learn and Play Dino Coloring. And hey, Ultimate Games, just what the f*** is this? Are you serious with this derpy dinosaur dipshit? What about this guy? He looks like he just realized how stupid he looks. Or what about this asshole who apparently managed to install a picket fence to surround his carefully planted garden? What's next? You gonna drive the kids to soccer practice? And don't get me started on this moron. I can't tell if he stubbed his toe or he's holding in a fart. Anyways, real great work here, Ultimate Games. Just top-notch stuff, really.
Sanka
has another Roblox game with car mechanic pinball. Actually, kind of a clever idea, but I'm confident they'll manage to f*** it up. Silesia Games proudly presents
Burfia,
which is a
zany multiplayer party game with a gimmick.
And that gimmick is that it's stupid.
Thank you, Mario.
And then East Asia Soft's pervy game for the week is, well, hey, shout out to inclusivity, I guess, because Otoko Cross Pretty Boys Mahjong Solitaire lets you dress boys up as a French maid, cheerleader, or secretary, and watch as their clothes fall off while you play Mahjong. I will say though, you want a seat by yourself on the train? Whip this sucker out, and I bet you'll get plenty of elbow room. Well, if you need something a bit more visceral after that lineup, how about a game with blood, guts, gross cutting sounds, and holy shit, did a naked baby just fall out of that disemboweled demon? Why is it that some of the most detailed pixel art often ends up in the most violent and gory games? I'm not sure, but No Place for Bravery looks sick, as long as it won't make you sick. It's a top-down action RPG that's loaded to the brim with dodges, parries, and brutal difficulty. It releases for $20 by Glitch Factory and Eastbird Games, and follows a father who is a retired warrior relaxing with his family in peace. His daughter gets kidnapped, and he goes all...
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
Yeah, he pretty much flies off the handle, hell-bent on murdering everything in his path with a bloodlust that can only be quenched by saving his little girl. If you're in the mood to unleash your inner barbarian and slaughter your enemies while getting your ass kicked by the game's unforgiving difficulty, No Place for Bravery looks set to provide just that outlet.
Good luck.
But for something on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we've got a multiplayer game that doesn't necessarily look
Zany!
or reliant upon a specific
Gimmick!
Rather, Camped Out sounds pretty cool. A family-friendly couch co-op game developed by Melbourne-based Inca Studios, Camped Out is kinda like Don't Starve, but cute. As a young kid at summer camp, you team up with other kids and your counselor to build a camp before night falls. Each character has unique traits, making some better for building, some better for gathering resources, and some who are best to provide moral support or leadership. As a local-only game, this would probably be a lot of fun in a family setting, as it requires a lot of teamwork and has a nice comic book art style to it with outlines and visual cues that should make the game much easier to grasp. In 1999, I do wish it had online play, but I'm also well aware that $20 for something that can keep a family pleasantly engaged or potentially even encourage bonding? Yeah, that could be well worth the price. Waku Waku Games and Wandering Wonder Studio release a puzzle battle game to round out the big Thursday drop when Puzzle Battler Mirai drops like the match 3 puzzle game that it is for $7.19. The trailer alone was filled with so many doe-eyed anime schoolgirls shrieking and moaning that I had to adjust the volume so my family wouldn't think I was watching a porno. So it's not necessarily up my alley, but the gameplay looks a lot like Puzzles & Dragons mixed with Puzzle Fighter. So, at least from that perspective, it looks like it has a solid hook. And then we've got 2 more games to round out the week, and they both look like they're worth checking out. First up, as usual, is Ratalaika Games, who teamed up with Seep to release Roar of Revenge for $4.99. At that price, and with what I see in the trailer, I'm already sold. Rocking an 8-bit aesthetic, you play as Keel the Barbarian and set out to defeat some evil overlord thing. The gameplay is a mix of Metroid and Castlevania, with a large 2D world to explore that is broken up into a few levels with plenty of upgrades to find along the way. The combat looks simple with bosses to tackle and plenty of cannon fodder for your gigantic sword to whack, and the whole game will take you somewhere between an hour or 2 to finish. I'm a big fan of these quick, tight retro throwbacks, so I'll definitely be checking this one out too. But our last game for the week, definitely last but not least, is one that I think we've all been anxiously awaiting. After bidding farewell to Shovel Knight in 2019's King of Cards, the indie game icon is back in Shovel Knight Dig. Similar to last year's Cyber Shadow, Dig is actually not developed by Yacht Club Games, though they've been intricately involved throughout its production. Instead, Nitrome leads development, whose last Switch releases include Gunbrick Reloaded and Bomb Chicken, one of the first games covered on Nindie Nation. Nitrome is an interesting developer as they've really learned to pivot with the times. Since 2012, they released around 40 mobile games, and since 2005, nearly 200 Flash or browser-based games, all of which are free to play on their website and are, for the most part, surprisingly solid. After last year's release of Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, while the approach to Dig is quite different, the game plays much closer to traditional Shovel Knight than last year's puzzle-based affair. In fact, I am tickled pink to share that Shovel Knight Dig includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! So let's dig into it. Pun intended. Every level is handcrafted, and every run will follow the same path, but the pieces of that level are stitched together in a way that makes every run unique. As you progress downward, chasing after the excavator that stole your loot, you'll have opportunities to buy upgrades, but that system is much more rogue-like than it is rogue-lite, which means there are only a couple of upgrades that carry over in between runs. Each level is broken up into a few parts with a boss or knight at the end of each. And as you dig your way down to each boss, you'll have optional tasks to collect keys and gear that can be used to replenish health or purchase upgrades. One of the more interesting aspects, though, is how the boss fights are almost identical to what we saw throughout the original games. So even though you navigate levels by digging downward a la SteamWorld Dig, when you reach your destination, it's the same Mega Man-style boss fights that we're used to. Shovel Knight himself has also received a gorgeous 16-bit visual facelift that retains all the charm you know and love while making everything just a bit prettier. And you can expect the same level of humor to be backed by yet another outstanding soundtrack by Jake Kaufman. The game doesn't release until Friday, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to check it out on Nindies at Night, but rest assured that when it does launch for $24.99, we'll have one of the biggest indies of the year finally in our hands. Are you planning to pick up Shovel Knight Dig, or are you waiting for a sale? Anyone checking out Return to Monkey Island or Beacon Pines for that narrative experience? Or would you rather beat things up in No Place for Bravery, or settle in with the family for some camping out? There's a lot to consider this week, so let me know your picks down in the comments, as well as any of these games that you really want to see during our Nindies at Night stream this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can also find Nindie Nation on Twitter, and we'd love to see more of you citizens come hang out with us on Discord. Next week's looking like another great lineup with a cool sci-fi twin-stick shooter, an interesting homage to the NES game Solomon's Key, and one of the best games so far of 2022, Tunic, makes its way to the Switch. But for now, citizens, we're all done for today. Thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing Nindie Nation with others. Until next week, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 160. And remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.